or what success means. Third, I do also, because I've done a bit of work on this, want to talk about what the Sunni predicament in Mosul, particularly in post-ISIS as well, where they're looking to go towards. And finally, I want to look at more fundamentally decentralization and how we've completely sort of misunderstood what decentralization means. And because of that, state building has failed in post-2003 Iraq, and how we need to fix the fundamental structures of the state. Okay, so to begin, the battle for Mosul, so far so good, right? They've gone through villages, they've been faster than expected. You have great coordination between the Peshmerga and the Iraqi army. This is something historic. The two armies that used to fight each other are now fighting together. No real problems. We're moving in towards the city. And there was an assumption that the people of Mosul would flee, and many of them are choosing not to flee. So they're staying in the city. And this necessarily means that it's going to be a longer battle than expected, because they call it war of the streets. They're going to go into the streets, and basically ISIS will be hiding in between civilians, hiding in hospitals and streets. So blocks could take days to kind of liberate. So it's not going to be easy, and there probably will be some complications to this. But the hope is that that the groups can continue this coordination without instigating the local population much. Now, the first point, Erbil-Baghdad relations, and I guess this can best be summed up, and I'm going to be critical here of the Kurdistan region, but I think it's important to be critical of the Kurdistan region sometimes to understand some of the fundamental problems. I remember speaking to Arab Iraqis, let's say in Baghdad, Da'wah party members, other party members, let's say around 2010, 2011, when the Kurdistan region was really booming, when it was the other Iraq. And there was a genuine fear that among these Arab politicians, what's going to happen? They're going to split. They're building pipelines. They have oil, ExxonMobil, Chevron, all of these companies. This is it, right? It's been really interesting. I just went there a few weeks ago and speaking to many of the same politicians. And now their tone is, let the Kurds try, right? There's been a huge shift in the perception and in this relationship between the periphery and the center. Whereas before, there was this paranoia. Now, they've seen the Kurds are not in a good position economically. They've been unable to really, because of the war on ISIS, because of the IDP issue, because of the drop in oil price, they've been unable to develop their economy to the point where salaries haven't been paid, to some extent the Peshmerga haven't been paid. And so Baghdad sees this as a way of, you were too sort of arrogant, and now you're coming back to us, right? And unfortunately, that means that the relations between the two are still antagonistic, even though. What it also means is that the dream of Kurdish independence will have to be on hold. There's no way at the current moment we can really be talking about independence if under these sort of economic troubles. And it will also mean, and this is a good thing, that there needs to be better coordination, right, between the center and the periphery. That if the KRG, which needs this money to come from Baghdad, there needs to be better coordination between the two parties. So that's just an observation I've had between the dynamics. And I think it's important to kind of consider that. Another issue is the Kurdish House seems to be divided, and I think this is heavily problematic for them moving forward. The fact that in the parliament in Iraq, you have the different Kurdish parties voting against each other on several bills. For example, the impeachment of one of their ministers, the finance minister, Hushar Zebari, shows that not only are they divided in their house, but they're also divided outside. And this was something that the Kurds used to do quite well, which was whatever divisions they had internally, they would act as a united front abroad. And I think this has big implications if a deal is not able to be reached to kind of sew these divisions back together. Because when they do go to negotiate with Baghdad, they're stronger when they're united. And this is something else that I'm noticing that needs to be done. So to move to the second point, which is the KRG in Mosul, I think, you know, the aims are more modest than, let's say, the media wants. I don't think the Kurdistan region has any ambitions to take over the city of Mosul. And the Kurdistan region will probably also not want to take over many of the sort of towns and villages on the north or on the outside of the city. What they do want, first of all, is for ISIS to not be there, right? That's number one priority. Second priority, that Shia paramilitary groups are also not there.